Matthew 7:21 out of the ESV, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do mighty works in your name?' And then," and this is the scariest part of the Bible. You agree? It's verse 23, Matthew 7. "And then I will declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.'" You guys, I came so close to hearing those words because I thought I was a Christian my whole life. I was saved at age 59. I'm now coming on 67 next month, 8 years ago. I was born literally into New Thought churches. My parents were infertile for 7 years after being married. They went to a New Thought church, put in a prayer request, and they conceived me a month later. And so that just hooked my parents in to New Thought deception. And I'll talk about New Thought versus New Age and what it means. But I spent the next 33 years as members of Christian Science Church, Unity Church, Religious Science Church, all coming through the lineage of Phineas Quimby, the hypnotist, and teaching that your thoughts create your reality. And then in the 1990s, when I was writing books and I was hired to be a speaker with the Whole Life Expo, and we toured the whole North America. We didn't come to Kentucky, which, yay Kentucky for having that discernment, but we went everywhere else to convention centers, and I toured with some of the most famous New Age teachers for the next, I think, 26 years. Thinking I was a Christian the whole time. I went on Oprah, all the talk shows, CNN, The View, everything. Rock stars, movie stars were at my house. We were talking about New Age stuff, and I thought that was my life. And that whole time, I thought I was doing God's will because people told me that the New Age materials that I produced comforted them and seemed to help them and seemed to be accurate. Because the devil is what? A counterfeiter. You all know that, right? He counterfeits. We can look at Exodus. In Pharaoh's court, where the sorcerers were able to mimic the miracles that God was doing through Moses and Aaron to a degree, wasn't he? Right? And he still does that. He still mimics, and he still, Dr. Ham talked about Genesis 3, and did God really say that? You can be like God. That's the whole MO of the devil today. You can be like God. So New Thought is this belief that you can create through positive thoughts, positive feelings, positive actions. It makes you the creator in its teachings. Now, I know the Bible talks about the importance of hope and faith, but that's in the context of God as sovereign creator, isn't it? And his will. New Thought says, yeah, there's God, but I'm going to create. And that's the big difference, is who do you believe is in charge? Do you think that the locus of control comes from our Creator or from your positive thoughts, positive mindset, positive words? It's really important. It seems so subtle, but it can mean the difference between what I just read in Matthew 7 or not. We need to know Jesus. New Age really came out of the spiritualism movement. In the mid-1800s in the U.S., spiritualism, transcendentalism, New Thought was very popular. Mary Baker Eddy had taken Phineas Quimby's work and made Christian Science. She had also taken Emanuel Swedenborg's work, where he claimed to go to heaven and talk to angels. And she had lawsuits for plagiarism to Swedenborg and Phineas Quimby. And then at that same time, you had people interested in seances in the mid-1800s. You had these sisters, these young girls in New York called the Fox Sisters, who claimed that they could hear knocking sounds from deceased people. Seances became big. You had a woman named Helena Blavatsky, who started the Theosophical Society, and she claimed that she could channel, she called them these ascended masters from India that were giving her the truth. She started a magazine called Lucifer, and her teaching was that Lucifer was a misunderstood evil being. Doesn't that sound familiar? You hear that now. It's really scary stuff. But out of that, the New Age was born. It's not new at all. It's old. It's Genesis 3 repackaged. And the New Age really gets more into, it overlaps with New Thought, and it gets more into trying to predict and control your future. So it gets into divination. But what we find the differences between New Age, New Thought, and Christianity is this. With New Age, New Thought, it is all about glorifying the self. Glorifying the self. So you've got your positive affirmations. You've got, you deserve it, follow your heart, you can do it, kind of messages. We'll talk about that because it can be confusing. I get a lot of questions about vision boards. I'm going to talk about that. And the difference between New Age, New Thought, and Christianity is, who do we glorify as Christians? Thank you, sisters. I was worried there for a second. So New Age, New Thought glorifies the self, and Christianity glorifies God. Huge difference that can be your litmus test. Is this New Age, New Thought, or is this biblical? Okay? Is this trying to elevate me or not? Now, my background is psychology. I don't believe in traditional psychology anymore, but I earned a BA and an MA from Chapman University in psychology, counseling psychology. I was a psychotherapist for years. And then when I became a New Age teacher, I kind of left that behind. But I noticed that the people who came to the New Age workshops I was doing were trauma survivors. They had been abandoned, abused, betrayed. And in psychology, we would have called it the low self-esteem. I don't use that terminology anymore. But these were people, women who felt bad about themselves. And they turned to New Age, New Thought, because again, it glorifies self, and it makes you feel like $1 million. People will tell you, oh, you're a goddess, you're an angel. They will tell you, they will twist Esther 4, and they'll say, you were born for just such a time as this. That's not about us. And they just try to make you feel like you have power. The danger with that whole appetite for power is that it leads in darker and darker roads. Once you get on the New Age, New Thought hamster wheel, that's what we call it, you get on there, it's a very works-based fundamental system. It says you have to do this, this, and this in order to become enlightened. Or they even say to ascend. They use that word ascend, but not in the way that our Lord ascended. They talk about yourself ascending. So the New Age, New Thought will give you this whole litany of things you have to do every day. You have to clear your chakras. That's a Hindu concept that says that you have energy wheels inside of you that need to be balanced. Sisters, if you hear anyone talk about chakras, big red flag, okay? That's not Christian. Same with vibrations, vibes, frequencies, quantum, anything. That's not Christian. That's New Age, New Thought vocabulary, jargon. Okay? It's all trying to make people who are trauma survivors feel better about herself. And it hooks her in. She gets on the hamster wheel. She has to do these things. She has to put her crystals under the full moon. She has to read A Course in Miracles. She has to go to yoga classes. She has to meditate. I mean, just this whole long list of fundamentalist, works-based list. And it can be expensive, too, to boot. So let's talk about the 3 practices the Bible condemns that are integral to New Age deception. The first one is idolatry. Idolatry. Now, Dr. Purdom and Dr. Ham talked about idolatry. Of course, we see it with the first 2 commandments. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall not have any other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself any carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above or that is earth beneath. So idolatry really is the belief that something has power in itself apart from God. I'm going to give you common examples that we even see in our own churches. As I mentioned at the panel, I'm pretty blunt. So just hang in there because it's truth and love, okay? Let's talk about crystals for a second. I absolutely know, I went through seminary, got a master's degree, that God made crystals, and they are in the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and they're beautiful, aren't they? Right? So crystals, in and of themselves, are spiritually neutral. If you're able to have a crystal on your bookshelf and appreciate it as God's creation, great. But where the New Age comes in is it says that crystal will heal you. That crystal will bring you money or love. That's called idolatry. We want to be very clear about that. And if you're in doubt ever, just pray for the Holy Spirit to give you wisdom. Am I idolizing this? Yes or no? Let's talk about oils. Let's talk about oils, okay? Now, the Bible has distilled oils. Distilled oils are different than what we see today. It's called essential oils. We know that God created the flowers and the plants that makes the oils. Got that. But here's what the New Age does. It says, well, therefore, since God made it, I can use it any way I want. So just like with crystals, I just want to say, I use oils myself for fragrance and for cleaning. There's nothing wrong with oils. They are spiritually neutral. Where we get into trouble is when we think that oils have a magical power apart from God. There's a company called Young Living that has a little bottle. It's pink and white. I think last time I checked, it was $50, and it's called Abundance. And some of the advertising says that if you use this oil in a distiller, that you will attract abundance. We're not talking abundance of joy here. They're talking about money. That you can buy their $50 bottle of oil and you can attract money. That's idolatry. And it gets even worse than that. Because the second and third things that you see with New Age, not only is idolatry, but the second thing is you see witchcraft or sorcery. Witchcraft and sorcery are kind of used interchangeably in the Bible. And the third thing is divination. So with the example of the abundance oil, if you were to go, and I don't recommend this, but if you were to go on a site called Etsy, it's kind of a crafty site, and you were to type in abundance oil in the search bar of Etsy, what would pop up would be all the witchcraft sites. And they sell abundance oils designed to attract money, and they all have pentagrams on them and dragons that are gnarly dragons, not the cute dragons that you see at Creation Museum. They have just really dark occultic spells associated with abundance oils. So that's an example where it goes from idolatry to sorcery. This is what we see in both New Thought and New Age, is this desire to have power. Did you know that Wicca, witchcraft, is one of the fastest growing so-called religions in our country? Does that concern you? It's very concerning. And I have talked to these women. Now, I was a little bit in Wicca, but I had friends, they kind of left me now that I'm a Christian, I'm boring to them. But I've had so many friends who were in Wicca and witchcraft, and the number one reason they got into that was to have more personal power. They really wanted power. They felt out of control in their lives. They felt like they didn't believe in God. They believed in pantheism and panentheism. Pantheism is the belief that God, the divine, is in the trees and the rocks and everything. And so the trees and the rocks are therefore divine, and they talk with them and they pray to the trees. This is where you see the tree huggers. Panentheism is the belief that God's in everything and outside of everything. Instead of the Bible's view that the creator and the creature, us, are separate. He did create us. We are God's creations. But God is not inside of us like I used to believe in the New Age. That can really mess people up if they believe in pantheism.